scent mark from the dominant female to the dominant male. Cheek mark, scent mark on the burrow entrance by the dominant female. All right, very unusual greeting display, followed by a scent cheek mark by the dominant male to the burrow. Sniff greet and brief auto groom by the dominant male to the baby. And I'm just an object now. Still pretty windy. And the dominant female, Ghakhulu Cucciolina, is being very vigilant, guarding there, then having a bit of an auto groom. They're starting to get ready to go to bed, perhaps, or they might go out foraging again. Again, it all depends, again and again, on what they've had during the daytime for food. If they've been very disturbed by predators, they may end up going out foraging into the night. They may go to sleep for a few hours and then head out. Anything is possible with them with activity times. It's also been extremely hot over the last few weeks because we haven't had any rainfall here to cool the area down. And that vigilance towards distant alarm towards the riverine ecosystem. Sometimes it's difficult to see what are they actually eating. There doesn't seem to be anything there in the sand, but every now and again they'll stop and seem to find something that is tasty, like right there. I don't see anything. But there must be something. They do also eat these, which I have documented here, which are currently in season, so perhaps they're finding some dried up ones of these. They'll commonly eat little tenebrionid beetles as well, which are covered in dust. They could be finding eggs from insects, things that are so tiny that human senses cannot possibly even perceive them. They will notice them. Right, something has moved nearby and has pulled the attention of them towards it. I heard it as well. Possibly a rodent that is coming out before sunset. The dominant female is definitely alerted to that. Yes, that crow in the distance, Cape Crow, is definitely making them alert. And of course, Squeaky Scoia'telo ran into the burrow very quickly upon hearing that distant call. And then there's a growl from the dominant female. It's interesting. A urine scent mark. We can actually zoom in on that. You see that wet patch of sand there? Quite unusual to be able to see it like this. Right there at the midden. Hardy-dar ibis calling. Again, harmless. That's not an alarm sound. Only briefly paid attention to it. And it's back to looking for whatever they're digging up here. All right. Another sound. The dominant male yet again. Oh, very nice. That's what we call a Dutch rack shot. A A perspective shot right there, and it's not common to see them standing up like this. Wonderful. What a privilege. You never know what you might see happen. We've already seen a few different behaviors here, and if you're not filming at the time, you can miss them. Dominant male just looking up briefly at Squeaky coming down there above him. All right. Dominant female just gave a warning growl. That's beautiful to be able to hear that so clearly. I'm relieved to say the mosquitoes have left the area now. At one stage I was having to wear a woolen cap because they were attacking me every day. And now they have finally stopped trying to have a grant takeaway, which is a great pleasure. Not having to wear a woolen cap here in the heat. These are the behind the scenes in science that people often don't appreciate to get close enough to see this type of behavior. All the hardships that have been endured up until that point. Cramps, sunburn, insect bites, arachnid bites. Talking about ticks, fleas, mites. Yeah. It can be a very arduous task to get to that point. All right, what we've got happening now is scent overmark by Squeaky Scoia'tael. In the Kalahari Desert, we would routinely collect dung and urine samples from meerkats, so you became very trained as a research biologist to go and collect these samples, put them on ice in a thermos, and then they were analyzed back in the lab. So that's a midden overmark. Of course, I don't do any of that here. This is observation only for conservation purposes. Dominant female again, standing up, being very vigilant. Let's have another look at that anatomy. You can see very clearly how the arms stick outright, unlike the meerkats lying down along the chest. I'm just the noisy object that they are familiar with. Just letting them know so they don't ever get a surprise. Never want to surprise them as an observer. They must always know exactly where I am and what I'm doing. See what the different individuals are doing. I can see all of them at once, but the camera cannot pan all of them. So I have to multitask. Filming there, watching there, and watching there. To make sure everybody is staying relaxed. The wind is settling down nicely now, which is great. It's always better for me as an observer not to have very windy conditions that suddenly and unpredictably move vegetation and disturb the animals I am observing. All right, that's between mother and the baby, if any. again, this is a hands-off research project. Many people have said to me, oh, don't you get tempted to try and touch any animals here? As you can see, I didn't even move, but the youngster there is still learning that I'm just an object here. If I was to even think of touching one of these animals and move out to do that, they would treat me as a predator because it is not something I have got them accustomed to, and they would see it as a threat. Just so that you know, if you have asked this question or have thought about it. This is not a petting zoo. These are wild animals. There's no objective here at all for me to touch them, or no benefit at all to the animal, and I will not risk potentially transmitting any human pathogens or anything like that to them by touching or even considering doing it. Right, the youngster has found something in the sand. It's dragging along rapidly. Oh, possibly the centipede. No, it's not a centipede. I'm trying to see. Oh, that's not a good idea. That is a carabid beetle, which is very unpalatable. And baby is going to learn a valuable lesson here, not to go and attack tenebrionid beetles, which actually spray a mixture of formic acid. Of course, the beetle is pretty much unperturbed. It has very, very tough fused elytra. The wing panels are fused, it can't fly. It's a predatory beetle that attacks other insects, quite commonly eating many pests, as farmers call them, that are on their crops. So these are in fact the farmer's friends, and this baby will not eat it. It is, however, very curious, and if it gets sprayed in the eye, it will learn a valuable life lesson, which the adults have already learned, and that is why they will not go near this beetle. All right, baby rushing off into the burrow with its prize, disturbing the dominant male, and you can see how these burrows are linked together underground. Of course, that beetle is unfortunate if it manages to get damaged, because its deterrent didn't work on that youngster. The price that one individual of the species pays will protect others of that same species. However, animals that have bright markings on them, aposematic markings, such as black, yellow, white, red, certain very toxic locusts, toxic butterflies, such as the monarch butterfly, for example, as well. If you look at bees with the black and the yellow, these are all warning marks. So they announce the danger ahead of time, which hopefully will prevent any damage to that individual. Because if somebody has eaten one in the past, or has been attacked by one, or has had a nasty chemical interaction, they will not forget that. And next time they see any animal that looks even remotely similar with those aposematic markings, they will, that's a tongue twister right there, they will leave it alone. Batesian mimicry, however, is a different situation. There's a lot of deceit in nature, false advertising. The viceroy butterfly, for example, has very similar markings to the monarch butterfly, but the viceroy butterfly is totally palatable. And because it has such similar markings, over time, through convergent development or evolution, what has happened is animals leave it alone, even though it is harmless to them. So it is taking advantage of another species who actually is unpalatable or potentially dangerous. It's incredible how many sneaky, inverted commas, air quotes on that human term for animal behavior, aspects there are in nature. So, to get back to my point about that tenebrionid beetle, it has probably been abandoned in the burrow, and if it's fortunate, it will only have a few missing limbs or maybe a dent or two, and it's very difficult to crush carapace. And this baby will have learned a lesson to leave future ones that it encounters alone. However, they do have a warning, and they move very rapidly and basically shudder. Their bodies, they look almost like they're shivering, and that is a warning before they lift their abdomens up and spray a mixture of that formic acid over a meter into any potential attacker's face. This is where they get the common name in Afrikaans, which is oogpister. Very descriptive. Basically, eye pisser, oogpister, of oogskieter, as some people prefer to say more euphemistically. Eye shooter. But basically, the results are the same. If you get the acid in your eye, it could potentially cause blindness. So, of course, meerkats and mongooses have nictitating membranes. Nictitating membranes are basically like a windscreen wiper on a car. So it's a double eyelid equivalent. See-through membrane which flicks in and out from the inside of the eye to the outside, keeping the eye free of dust. And of course the youngster startles itself, and then everybody else, as you can see, is not even slightly perturbed. And over time, this is how associative learning occurs. The baby will gradually learn what is dangerous and what isn't dangerous. Now it's noticed my leg again, and it's carrying on. So over time, it's learned not to be alarmed by me. Dominant male briefly allo-grooming, completely non-reciprocal by the baby. Mongoose magic moments right here. It is difficult for me to fully emphasize how long it has taken me to get to this point where I can simply be here and observe these behaviors unfolding and document them, and be able to share this with you by being able to actually move my hands, move the camera. 2008, it's now 2025. Bit of auto grooming. By now, anybody who follows my work will be very familiar with these terms, as you're getting a crash course over years in research biology and data collection and codes that are used. There's a lot of energy from the baby here. It's wonderful to see. That means it's in good condition and can afford to play. The same with meerkats. Play fighting is a sign of good condition. Basically, there's excess energy to burn. The dominant male being ever vigilant there. The dominant female is starting to nod off, but she's also watching the baby. They're incredible parents. Such a great investment by them on a day-to-day basis with this baby, the first and only survivor in over 4 years. We've got through terrible droughts, COVID and everything. And here we are after 2 floods in 2023, 1 in 2024. This beautiful moment right here. What makes it so very special to me is you never know if you will ever see this again. It's a snapshot in time. It's the only yellow mongoose group like this on the planet you can get this close to right now. And I was so concerned after all my years of work with them that they were going to go extinct, but now I have hope again with this youngest generation. Hopefully there'll be more babies arriving over the next year, and we'll see as I continue to document the behaviors. Until next time, my friends, remember, conservation through education. Please do like and share, subscribe to all the different social media of mine. It helps me a lot. Thank you so much. All the best.